The story you are about to hear comes from a land far, far beyond your maps. The land of magical Rome universe, where magic is real, the gods are watching, and ambition is a dangerous game. My name is Gellius Varro. Those who know me as a friend, men and women just like you, they call me the keeper of stories. Stories about magic, adventure, danger, and the shadows that haunt magical Rome universe. Draw closer now. Let us begin. As you already know, that in addition to being the keeper of stories, I am also the keeper of my tavern called the Little Tiber. In my office, away from prying eyes, is a wooden box labeled Lost and Found. My daughter Jelia is responsible for collecting objects left in the tavern and then returning them to their rightful owner. She knows if someone is lying and when they're telling the truth. Jelia is clever that way. Curious objects find their way into the lost and found box. Sometimes I look at them and conjure up the lives of their owners, their fears, their hopes, and their dreams. One day, while I was digging around, my fingers closed around a rudis. A rudis is not something you lose or accidentally leave behind. This is an object that a man would sooner die for than misplace. Yet, here it was, sitting between a sandal with a broken strap and a coin pouch with no coins. Wait, what is a rudis? You might be wondering. Let me describe it for you. It is not much to look at. A small wooden sword, roughly made, and would prove useless in a fight. It is given to a gladiator when he gets freedom from the dust and blood of the arena, marking the end of his slavery and the beginning of his life as a freedman. The rudis is thus a symbol of power and transformation. It is an odd thing. The humblest of objects often carry the most symbolic weight in magical Rome, like this rudis. Stroking the wooden blade of the rudis, I was led back in time when a great transformation happened in my own life. But no, this is not a story about my beginnings as a freedman. I will tell that story another day. Instead, today's story is about another transformation, how I became the keeper of stories. It happened 14 years ago, just 1 year after I opened the Little Tiber for business. The old keeper of stories was dying, and whispers began spreading among the denizens of our mighty city. Who will become the new keeper? Word was sent through swift tongues that those who are interested should assemble at the old keeper's house on the ninth day in the month of December. On the appointed day, as the sun set below the horizon, I stood with two others in the atrium of the keeper's house. Sweat trickled down my face despite the chill in the air. Another man with a strong jaw and a thick mustache looked equally nervous. However, the third man, a very tall man, I might add, strutted in the atrium, his massive head held high. He exuded an air of smug confidence that immediately put me on guard. This tall man maintained a distance, avoiding eye contact with the two of us, as if our anxiety and nervousness would infect him. The keeper of stories joined us soon in the atrium. His breathing was labored and painful. He walked slowly, barely concealing the agony in his bones. I will ask each of you three questions, he said, his voice betraying his fragility. Be honest, be truthful, no guesses. This is a contest. Your answers will decide who will become the next keeper of stories. Saying this, he sat down heavily on a bench against the wall. A man tells you a story that you know is a lie. What will you do with that story? He asked. I will not tell the story, and then the story will die, the man with the mustache said energetically. Why? Asked the keeper. Because a lie should never be allowed, it will corrode our morals and ruin us as a society. My mouth will always tell the truth. Before he could say another word, the tall, smug man burst in. I will spread the story far and wide, uncle. Oh, he is the keeper's nephew. The thought flashed in my mind. I felt a stab of pain in my gut. Did I even stand a chance against him? Oblivious to my misery, the nephew continued. All stories deserve to be shared, otherwise, they die. And no story, true or false, deserves to die. Then the keeper turned his gaze upon me. I hesitated for a few moments, then mustered the courage to say what was in my heart. Stories are not always true, yet they act as vessels for a deeper truth wrapped inside the untruth. I am not a priest or a historian or a rumor of old, and so I will keep that lie, along with the shadow of truth it carries, clearly marked for what it is. Because one day, a man or woman ailing from a wound or a fear will come looking for solace. Solace that only that story's deeper truth can provide. I saw the keeper's eyes widen, but for a moment, and then he said, tell me a story that you will never share with anyone else. The nephew jumped in again. He told his story in a hushed, furtive way about a senator who stole from the treasury and made it seem that the coin was spent on legitimate magical Roman business. Of course, bribes were paid all around, an affair everyone knew but no one spoke of. Brilliant and nefarious, finished the nephew. And still, I have kept this story to myself. Even though I believe in spreading all stories to all ears, I'm also a man of the world, and I know when to keep a secret a secret. The man with the mustache told another such story, although of lesser intrigue and villainy. He was the one who believed in speaking only the truth. But he, like the nephew before him, revealed why his sense of self preservation prevented him from spreading the story, even though it was the truth. And then it was my turn. A story swam into my mind, a story I had carried for a while. It was a story that, if told, would spell doom for another city and its denizens. I chose my words carefully before speaking. I have one, but I won't tell it to you. I paused to see their reaction. The keeper looked amused, while the other two men frowned in disbelief. I took a breath and continued. It is not a story about me or my loved ones, or even about our mighty city. But if I tell that story, it will come at a great cost to many innocents. Very well, then, the keeper said, obviously enjoying this contest. Now for the last question. Where are stories kept? In the Senate library, the man with the mustache said in a confident voice, although his eyes looked uncertain. Maybe there is a secret section that only you can enter. The old keeper turned to his nephew. What do you say? In a chamber at the back of your garden, uncle, the nephew smiled. That's why the door is always locked. And you? The keeper asked me. Surely the nephew must know where all the stories lie hidden. Should I say that too? But I hesitated. The old keeper had said, be truthful, be honest, no guesses. I don't know, keeper, I mumbled. The keeper of stories sat deep in thought, a faraway look on his wizened face. And then he said, the keeper before me took 3 days to give his decision. But I may not be so blessed in days. It has to be now. He turned to the other two men. You can leave. My decision is made. As the others trudged out of the atrium, one disappointed, the other devastated, the keeper called me closer. All of you answered the first question truthfully. At least, what was the truth for each of you? The second question you alone answered wisely, with great discretion. A story that harms others is a story not worth telling. You made that choice. That shows character. Character that's expected from the keeper of stories. The truest act of keeping a story is in knowing which story should be allowed to go quietly into the dark. Such a story is your burden to carry alone. The old keeper paused to let his breathing settle, and then he continued. For the last question, your answer was exactly what I wanted to hear. No one, no man, no woman, not even senators or the council himself is allowed to know where our stories are kept. No one except the keeper of stories. The old keeper chuckled. You must be wondering where all our stories are kept. I felt a wave of delight swirl within, but was not sure if this was a final test by the old keeper. So I smiled at him politely with a dash of caution. As the new keeper of stories, it is your right to know, he said. But before I reveal that to you, let me tell you a story. Centuries ago, Mercury, the god of stories, chose one man and made him responsible for guarding the entire history of magical Rome universe. But Mercury did not want jealousy to follow the man or any harm to befall him or those who came after. So Mercury coined the title Keeper of Stories. But in truth, that man was the first keeper of history. So our history, our stories, where are they stored? Well, they exist in a different realm that you and I live in. It is called the fourth beyond. You cannot read the stories or hear them. Instead, you have to breathe them in. Not literally, but that's a simple way of explaining how stories enter a keeper's consciousness. You have to close your eyes, clear your mind, and breathe them in. At first, they will resist you, and then slowly, when you have proved your dedication to Mercury, the stories will flow into you like air does into lungs. The keeper hobbled to his feet. Here, give me your arm. There's a ritual I have to do. Inform Mercury that from this day, you, Gellius Varro, are the keeper of stories. We walked side by side to the back of his house, down to a chamber near the garden, kept under lock and key. The same chamber the nephew had mentioned. But there were no stories hidden inside. Instead, the chamber was a shrine to Mercury, the god of stories. And that's how, 14 years ago, after the old keeper had done the ritual, I became the keeper of stories. The tale is told, and you have heard the truth. All my stories are carried in your universe by the storyteller A. David Singh. If you wish to hear more, 7 epic tales are waiting for you at the gates of magicalrome.com/epic. That is magicalrome.com/EPIC. I am Gellius Varro, and I will return with another story very soon.